नमो नमः। संक्षेप रामायणस्य व्याकरण अंशानाम् अध्ययनम् इत्यस्मिन् वर्गे सर्वेषां स्वागतम्। प्रार्थनां कुर्मः। गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि। नमो गुरवे न गुरुः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। As already told to you, today we have special guest Dr. Sowmya Krishnapur. So I want to introduce her. Bhagini, can you please? Yes, Dhanyavadaha Bhagini. So I welcome you to our Sankshepa Ramayana course. Dr. Sowmya Bhagini has delivered more than 30 courses on vyoma portal, and more, I think, many more on other portals as well. Best person to teach the difficult part. She will make it very simple. That's her beauty of teaching. She has got a doctorate, that is one part, but she has 20 years of experience, teaching experience. She has completed Surat Saraswati Sabha exams, all levels. She has completed Vidya Bhushana, which is Chittur's highest level of exam, as well as she has completed Acharya in Vyakaran in Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthanam exams. And there is a long list of her scholarships. But for me, I will say a few words that she is such a guru that whenever a student starts to learn from her, that student will be Chinna Samshayaha, that's for sure. And so I welcome her. One more thing I would like to say that in Vyoma, she is called as SKR, but for students, she is SRK. That's what I can say. I need not tell what is SRK to all of you, but she's favorite among all the students. So now I will be doing Shravana Bhakti and Dr. Sowmya Madam will be talking to you. Dhanyavad Bhagini.
Namaste. Thank you, Leena Bhagini, for a very generous introduction. I hope I'll be able to give at least some idea of the overview. So the Sankshepa Ramayana, the grammatical analysis, has been a course which we have been dreaming of since long, because in our traditional way of learning, as we will also see today, learning a particular kavya or a text of literature in this manner, that is with the detailed emphasis on grammar, is considered to be one of the best ways to equip ourselves with a very good understanding of various aspects of grammar. So, kevalam vyakaranasya adhyayanam bhinnam, kintu yada kavyadvara vyakaranasya adhyayanam kriyate, tada bahunam amshanam सम्यक् अवगमनं भवति इति ज्येष्ठानां मार्गदर्शनम्। अत एव एतादृशाः वर्गाः यत्र एकैकस्य ग्रन्थस्य विस्तरेण व्याकरणांशसहितम् अध्ययनं क्रियते, तत् कर्तुम् अस्माभिः प्रयत्यते। तदङ्गत्वेन कृत् प्रत्ययानां तथा तद्धितप्रत्ययानां विषये किञ्चिदिव बोधयितुं लीना भगिनी मां पृष्टवती. So in today's class and the next class, I will try to present a very brief overview of Kṛt Pratyayas and Taddhita Pratyayas. So the intention of this session is obviously not to teach the Kṛt Pratyayas themselves, because that is pretty vast. It will require systematic study. I'll also try to present how we can progressively approach the study of Kṛt Pratyayas. So, atra asya uddeshyam tu prapanchasya parichayah. It is like the Google satellite view, right? So you can zoom out till you see the entire earth. So it's something like that. You know what are all the various aspects involved, so that as you go ahead systematically, you will be able to master the various aspects. Adau aham vadami ante prashnaah santi chet prashtumarhanti. So the first step when we look at understanding Saṃskṛta, yatkimapi vakyam shlokam va yada vayam svikurmah, tasya avagamanam staradvaye bhavati. So any sentence or verse or a piece of text, we look at the words, right? So the words can be analyzed at two levels. तत्र आदौ पदं भवति, तत्र वाक्ये कानि कानि पदानि. श्लोकाध्ययने अपि स एव प्रथमः अंशः, पदविभागः क्रियते. अस्तु, एतावन्ति पदानि सन्ति. तानि पदानि कीदृशानि इति यदा पश्यामः, संस्कृतभाषायां द्विविधं पदं भवति, तिङन्तं तथा सुबन्तम् इति. So these are the only two kinds of words when we look at it at the first level. So it is either subanta or tinganta. Normally we call it as subanta, tinganta, avyaya, but technically even avyayas are included under subantas. Okay, according to the Paninian framework, even avyayas, they are treated as subantas. They get the supratyaya, which is then deleted, because of which रूपभेदः न भवति, किन्तु अव्ययानामपि सुबन्तत्वम् अस्ति इत्यतः सुबन्तं तिङन्तम् इति द्विविधम् एव पदं भवति संस्कृते. Any word you take in Saṃskṛta, you will be able to classify into either of these. तत्र तिङन्तम् इत्युक्ते किम्? यत्र तिङ् प्रत्ययः अन्ते अस्ति तत् तिङन्तम् इत्युच्यते. धातुभ्यः तिङ् प्रत्ययानां योजनेन तिङन्तशब्दाः भवन्ति. एवमेव सुबन्तं, सुप् प्रत्ययाः यत्र अन्ते भवन्ति ते सुबन्ताः. प्रातिपदिकेभ्यः सुप् प्रत्ययस्य योजनं क्रियते. So these are components. Within a tinganta, you will be able to split into dhatu and ting, whereas the subantas we can split into pratipadika and sup. And when we analyze these tinganta or subanta, we try to look at some aspects. Yatha tingantam iti chet kaha dhatuhu, vacyam ityukte kartari karmani athava bhave, लकारः कः, कर्तरी लट् लकारः, कर्मणि लोट् लकारः इत्येवं लकारः एकैकस्य लकारस्य पृथगर्थः भवति. पुनः पदं परस्मैपदरूपं वा आत्मनेपदरूपं वा, कः पुरुषः, प्रथमः मध्यमः उत्तमो वा, वचनं. So these are all the attributes which characterize tingantas. Whereas when we come to subantas, we think of shabda. Shabda is nothing but the pratipadika. Which is the pratipadika? Tasya kaha antaha, antima varnaha kaha, lingam kim, ka vibhaktihi, kim vachanam. So these are the aspects which we try to analyze in the first level, which is called padajnanam. आरंभिकस्तरे एतदेव अस्माभिः क्रियते. तत्र वाक्यं भवति, वाक्ये पदानि भवन्ति, एकैकस्यापि पदस्य ज्ञानं प्राप्तुं वयं प्रयत्नं कुर्मः. तत्रैव शब्दरूपाणां धातुरूपाणाम् अध्ययनं क्रियते. भिन्नासु विभक्तिषु कथं सुबन्तानाम् उपयोगः, भिन्नेषु लकारेषु कथं तिङन्तानाम् उपयोगः इत्यपि वयं जानीमः. So this is the first level of learning where we are just understanding the two different kinds of words and how to combine them to form a meaningful sentence. Once we learn this, there is one more deeper level to Saṃskṛta. Tadeva Saṃskṛta bhāषायाः वैशिष्ट्यं. सामान्यतः आङ्ग्लभाषायामपि एवमेव भवति. We understand the words and how to fit them in a sentence. But the speciality of Saṃskṛta is we can dig deeper, as it were. So we can go into a dhātu and analyze a dhātu. धातुः कीदृशः? पठति इति एकं रूपमस्ति, पाठयति इति एकं रूपमस्ति. In both cases we hear the path, but the overall meaning is different. किमर्थम् इति यदा पश्यामः तत्र धातुः कीदृशः? If we try to analyze the dhatu, we find that a dhatu can be of two kinds. औपदेशिकः धातुः अथवा प्रत्ययान्तः धातुः. So औपदेशिक dhatu is a native dhatu, and these are actually the core building blocks of Saṃskṛta. धातु पाठे प्रायः 2,000 औपदेशिकाः धातवः दीयन्ते. So these 2,000 blocks are considered the core of Saṃskṛta vocabulary, because 98% of all the words are derived by adding layers on these dhatus. Okay. So if it is an aupadeshika dhatu, it is like an atomic particle. Let's assume an atom where it is the basic level building block. Yatha patha, pathavyaktāyam vachi, bhūsattājam ityadi uchyate. किन्तु पाठयति इति यदा पश्यामः तत्र प्रत्ययान्तः धातुः. It is not a native dhatu. Instead, it is a pratyayanta dhatu. That is a dhatu which is derived. Whenever something is derived, we can break it down further. Okay. So if it is aupadeshika dhatu, that is the dead end. There is no further breaking down. But if it is a pratyayanta dhatu, we can break it. Like tinganta, we separated into dhatu and ting. Yadi pratyayanta dhatuhu, tatra punaha prakriti pratyaya vibhagaha. So this breakup is called prakriti pratyaya vibhagaha. Okay. So it is the way in which we go deeper and deeper to understand the word. तत्र यदा प्रकृतिप्रत्यय विभागं कुर्मः धातुः सनादिप्रत्ययस्य योगेन. So when a dhatu combines with a set of pratyayas called sanadi pratyayas, it generates another dhatu. That is how we get pathayati. We have an original dhatu called path. To this, when I add a pratyaya called nich, which is in this set, I get another dhatu called pathi. Pathi iti pratyayanta dhatuhu, nijanta dhatuhu. Now when I add ting to pathi, I get pathayati. So pathati has only one level, path and ting. Path we cannot split further. But pathayati ityatra, I split it as pathi and ting. Pathi itself is split further as path and sanadi pratyayah. Sanadihi iti dvadasha pratyayah santi. By adding sanadi pratyayas, we can create newer and newer dhatus, which are called pratyayanta dhatus. Now these sanadi pratyayas are versatile. We can add them to dhatu. We can add them to pratipadikas also to generate a dhatu. Yatha bhrusha iti padamasti. Bhrisham ityukte adhikam ityarthaha, many. Okay. Whereas bhrishayate, I can to become many. So in that sense, I can add a pratyaya to a pratipadika and convert it into a dhatu. I can also add this pratyaya to ready-made subantas and create a dhatu. So there is a process of generation of new dhatus. So whenever I look at a dhatu, we can always check if we can split it into one of these further steps. So dhatushu aupadeshikaah dhatavah pratyayantadhatavah iti dvaividhyam bhavati. एवमेव यदा प्रातिपदिकानि पश्यामः तत्र अव्युत्पन्नं प्रातिपदिकम्. So like an aupadeshika dhatu, we also have native or underived pratipadikas. Like say you have a word like cha or eva. So there is no further split up. They are ready-made pratipadikas and they are very, very few in Saṃskṛta. Vastutaha Saṃskrite औपदेशिकाः धातवः केवलं 200. अव्युत्पन्न प्रातिपदिकानां list nasti. There is no definitive list, but they also are in a few hundreds, maybe not more than that. They are very, very less in number. A majority of the words used in Saṃskṛta are vyutpanna pratipadikani. That is pratipadikas which have been derived through some process. And here we have 4 different processes. So to derive a new dhatu, we have only one process, which is called addition of sanadi pratyaya. Whereas for derivation of pratipadikas, we have 4 processes. First process is addition of Kṛt Pratyaya to a dhatu. Dhatubhyah Kṛt Pratyayanam yojanena pratipadikam bhavati. Subantebhyah Taddhita Pratyayanam yojanena pratipadikam bhavati. So by adding Kṛt Pratyayas and Taddhita Pratyayas, we can generate new pratipadikas. We can also combine 2 different subantas to generate a pratipadika. And there are cases where we combine 2 subantas, but one of them is deleted and only one remains. So these are the 4 processes by which we generate pratipadikas. So at the first level, we have subantas and tingantas. Understanding them is called padajnanam. Subante tingante cha मूल रूपम भवति धातुः प्रातिपदिकं वा तस्य धातोः निष्पत्तिः कथं भवति अथवा प्रातिपदिकस्य निष्पत्तिः कथं भवति इति अवगच्छामः तत्तु वृत्तिज्ञानम् इति कथ्यते. So the second level where we go deeper, we try to analyze how this dhatu is generated or this pratipadikam is generated. So the processes which are involved in generation of either a dhatu or a pratipadika from multiple components is called vritti. Vṛttihi is a process. So panchavidha vṛttihi bhavati. There are 5 processes which help us in generating new dhatus and new pratipadikas. This vritti is what gives rise to the amazingly rich vocabulary of Saṃskṛta. Vritti dvara eva asmabhihi nūtana shabdanam nirmanam kriyate. Sa vrittihi panchavidha bhavati. So there is Kṛt vrittihi. So in Kṛt vritti, the components are dhatu and Kṛt Pratyayas. So to a dhatu, by adding Kṛt Pratyayas, what is the product? So the raw materials are dhatu with Kṛt Pratyayas. whereas what is generated is a Kridanta, which is a Pratipadikam. So we are generating a noun from a verb. In English, we call it as participle, but the basic process is the conversion of a verbal form into a nominal form. So Pratipadikam utpadyate. उदाहरणानि बहूनि सन्ति विशिष्य भवद्भिः यदा संक्षेपरामायणस्य अध्ययनं कृतमस्ति तत्र कृदन्तशब्दाः बहवः अधीताः. सो वच् इति धातुः तस्मात् तृच् इति कृत् प्रत्ययः योजनेन वक्तृ इति प्रातिपदिकं भवति. द्वितीया वृत्तिः अस्ति तद्धितवृत्तिः. तत्र सुबन्तेभ्यः तद्धितप्रत्ययानां योजनं क्रियते. So the raw material we use here is a subanta and a set of pratyayas called Taddhita Pratyayas. Atrapi pratipadikam utpadyate. So the end material here is also pratipadikam. Raghu ityasmat an pratyayah. Raghu, it's actually raghoho. We use the shashti of raghu. So raghoho iti shashtyantat. An is a taddhita pratyaya which generates a taddhitanta pratipadikam called raghava. Okay. So taddhitanta is also a pratipadikam. Then we have samasa vrittihi, which is a combination of two subantas. Sometimes could be more, and there are some exceptions, but in general, samasa is combining two subantas to generate a new pratipadikam. Yatha Sitayaha patihi ityasti. Sitayaha iti ekam padam. Then patihi iti aparam padam. Ubhayam api subanta. Right. So Sitayaha is also a subanta. Patihi is also a subanta. Then when we join this, we get a pratipadika called Sitapati, which is a new pratipadika. Samastam pratipadikam. Atra Kridantam pratipadikam, Taddhitantam pratipadikam, Samasavrittau Kritayam, Samastam pratipadikam bhavati. Then the fourth one is called Ekashesha Vrittihi. Eka means one, Shesha means remains. So when two subantas come together, one is deleted and only one remains. Such vritti is called Ekashesha. Atrapi pratipadikam eva shishyate. So mata and pita. When we join, we get pitarau. That is pitru is the pratipadika. The subanta form is pitarau. Now, this pitru shabda is different from this pitru. There are two pitru shabdas here. Right? So, the original pitru shabda means just father. Whereas, this product which we have retains the meaning of both mata and pita. So, this means parents. Ayam bhinnaha shabdaha. Yadyapi drashtum पितृशब्दवदेव अस्ति पितृशब्द एव किन्तु अर्थः भिन्नः केवल पितृशब्दस्य जनकः इत्येव अर्थः एकशेषवृत्तौ कृतायां तु जननी जनकौ इति उभयोः अर्थः तत्र भवति. Even though one of the subantas is not seen, the meaning of that subanta is added to the one which remains. That is the uniqueness of Ekashesha Vritti. Right? Then the last Vritti is Sanadyanta Dhatu Vritti, which generates a Dhatu. Yatha Purvam api drishtam Dhatoho Nishpadanartham Eka eva Vrittihi asti. So if you find a dhatu which is not in the original dhatu patha, you have to generate it using a sanadi pratyaya. There is no other way. Newer dhatus can be generated only by adding sanadi pratyayas. Sanadi is a set of 12 pratyayas. The uniqueness is we can add it to various things. That is, you cannot add everything to all. Some sanadi pratyayas are added to dhatus, some are added to pratipadikas, and some are added to subantas. Okay. So, evam yatha kr iti dhatuhu. By adding san, we get chikirsha. This is a new dhatu. Chikirshati, chikirshataha, chikirshanti. Desires to do ityarthaha bhavati. Evameva chapala ityasti. Chapala is a pratipadika. To that, if I add kyang, I get chapalaya. This is a new dhatu. Chapalayate iti rupam bhavati. Putram is a subanta. By adding kyach to it, I get putriya. All these are dhatus. Chikirsha, chapalaya, putriya, sanadyantaha, dhatavaha. They get all the forms of tingantas. They can further undergo process. Evam panchavidha vrittihi bhavati. And within a single word, we can have multiple vrittis. So vrittis are not, it is not that we can have a single vritti. Once you say add, say to a dhatu, you add sanadi pratyaya, you get dhatu. To this dhatu, you can add Kṛt Pratyaya to get a pratipadika. From the subanta of that, you can add Taddhita Pratyaya to get a Taddhitanta, which you can then combine with other subantas to make a samasa, and so on. So any word we take, in Vritti Jnanam, we can keep on splitting. So you have A, you split it into B and C. B also, it may be possible to split. C also, you may be able to split. So you go on breaking down till we end up with the final blocks. That is how we analyze words and understand. तत्र किं वैशिष्ट्यम् इत्युक्ते अर्थः. तत्र तादृशाः अर्थाः यत्किमपि पदं वयं संस्कृते स्वीकुर्मः तत्तु केवलं पदं न भवति. यथा आङ्ग्ले ट्री इति एकं पदम् अस्ति. ट्री इत्युक्ते किं? We know what is a tree, that's it. किन्तु तस्यैव संस्कृते वृक्षः, पादपः, तरुः इत्येवं यदा भिन्नानि पदानि सन्ति, किमर्थं वृक्षः? वृच्यते. So we derive it from vrishch is to cut. So a tree is that which we usually cut and utilized for various purposes. Padapaha. So there padena pibati. It drinks from its roots or the feet. So each of them is meaningful. Most of the words in Saṃskṛta have a meaningful derivation because of these vṛttis. एवं वृत्तिभ्यः वयं नूतनस्य अर्थवतः पदस्य निर्माणं कुर्मः संस्कृते. यदा वृत्तीनाम् अध्ययनं क्रियते, if we just take a very quick look at अष्टाध्यायी, I hope all of you have heard of अष्टाध्यायी. अष्टाध्यायी is Panini's magnum opus, which covers all grammatical processes within it. अतः वृत्तीनाम् अपि सर्वेषां ज्ञानम् अष्टाध्याय्याः अध्ययनेन भवति. तत्र प्रथमाध्याये एकशेषवृत्तिः, द्वितीयाध्याये समासवृत्तिः, तृतीये सनादि तथा कृद् वृत्ति, चतुर्थे पंचमे च तद्धितवृत्तिः. So if you can see the first 5 adhyayas, the vrittis are spread out. The rest are all processes for combining these. That is, vritti is just adding, say, a pratyaya. But what happens? What are the modifications which happen when adding, say, Kṛt Pratyaya or Taddhita? Those are covered in the last 3 chapters. So vrittīnapi yada vrittihi api yada vayam pashyamah. Ekashesha is a very small vritti, only about 10 sutras. There are 10 rules for ekashesha. It's very, very small. So samasa is covered in 2 padas. Okay? 2 sections, around 100 rules are there. Sanadhyanta dhatus are again very small. So around 25, 26 sutras are there. So when we look at the Kṛt Vṛtti, right? So it is a huge Vṛtti. So yadi ashtadhyayaha parichayah asti. So the numbers indicate chapter, quarter. Each chapter is divided into 4 padas, and in each pada we have several sutras. So this is the general convention for indicating the sutra. If you don't know, don't worry, it's not required. I'm just trying to show the extent. Right? So as I said, around 10 sutras, 100 sutras, and around 25. But when we come to Kṛt Pratyayas and Taddhita Pratyayas, so Kṛt Pratyayanam prayaha panchashatam sutrani santi. There are approximately 500 sutras and 140 pratyayas among Kṛt. Sanadis are only 12. Samasa, of course, is not a pratyaya. So Sanadi Pratyayas are 12, whereas Kṛt Pratyayas are almost 140. So it is a huge territory to cover. There is a very wide variety of words which are generated by using Kṛt Pratyayas. So if we think Kṛt is big, so if you go to Taddhita, you can see here itself it covers 2 chapters. So Taddhita is more than double the size of Kridanta with over 1,000 rules, which is 1/4 of the Ashtadhyayi is dedicated to only Taddhitas. It's a huge variety with more than 300 pratyayas. So Kṛt Pratyayaha Taddhita Pratyayascha bhashayam Shabda Sampattim Vardhayanti. So these are the 2 major sets of pratyayas. So Kṛt is a set of pratyayas and Taddhita is a set of pratyayas. Both of these generate pratipadikas or nominal forms. The key difference is Kṛt Pratyaya is always added to a dhātu. So it is adding the first layer of meaning to a dhātu. So if we take dhātu as the core, the first covering around it is the Kṛt Pratyaya. So it converts dhātu to a pratipadika through some kind of a relation. Agre pashyamaha tasya kriyayaha karta athava kriyayaha karma ityevam, something related to the action. It is converting into a nominal form. Whereas Taddhita is the second layer of covering because it is added on the Pratipadika or on the Subanta. So it adds further layers of meanings to the generated nominal form. Evam Kṛt Pratyayanam Taddhita Pratyayanam cha atyantam sthula rupena avagamanam praptum vayam prayatnam kurmaha. Thought this a slightly lengthy introduction, but some of these basic concepts are required for us to understand what we are looking at, because many times I find students get confused. Is it Kṛt or Taddhita? So they are 2 completely different things. Okay, so the moment you look at the root, if the root is a dhatu, it has to be a Kṛt Pratyaya. Whereas if you are adding to any kind of subanta, it has to be a Taddhita Pratyaya. Okay. So there are 2 distinct sets with a variety of meanings. Tarhi idanim Kṛt Pratyayaha ityukte kim? Kṛt iti sanyadhikaraha. So Kṛt is a name given to a set of pratyayas. So any pratyaya which is added to a dhatu. Okay. So the sutras in the range. So Panini defines it as a range. So from here till here, all the pratyayas, he gives a name called Kṛt. So Kṛt does not have any special meaning. It just means to do. Kr means karoti. Karoti iti Kṛt, that which does. What does it do? Or create. Kr also means to create. Yatha ghatam karoti means to create a pot. So Kṛt here, to create. What does it create? It creates newer nouns. That is the basic level. From a Kṛt Pratyaya, you expand to get the nominal forms. Kṛt Pratyayaha dhatubhyah eva vidhiyante. All Kṛt Pratyayas, with no exceptions, they are added only to dhatus. You cannot take a pratipadika and add a Kṛt Pratyaya. Okay. The dhatu could be a native dhatu or derived. You can also add it to sanadyanta dhatus. You can also add it to aupadeshika dhatus, but it has to be a dhatu. Dhatubhyah eva Kṛt Pratyayah vidhiyante. And Kridanta Shabdaha, the product you get is always a pratipadika. You cannot generate a dhatu by adding Kṛt Pratyaya. Kridantaha pratipadikani eva bhavanti. On adding Kṛt Pratyaya to any dhatu, we always get a pratipadika. Okay. Idanim Kṛt Pratyayanam adhyayane ke amshaha jnatavyaha bhavanti. Which are the aspects? What are the things? If you are trying to learn a Kṛt Pratyaya, kim jnatavyam tatra? Prathamaha Pratyayaha. What is the Pratyaya? Right? So I hear say gantum. What is the Pratyaya that we are either trying to add, or if we take up a word from any text, what is the Pratyaya that we are using? That is the first thing. Then Prakritihi. What is the root to which we have added the Pratyaya? Right? So some Pratyayas can be added to all dhatus, whereas some Pratyayas are very specific. They can be added only to specific dhatus. I said there are about 140 Kṛt Pratyayas. There are only about 10 to 12 which can be added to all dhatus. They are the common or generic Pratyayas. All the rest depend specifically on the dhatu. So some kinds of dhatus get ach pratyaya. Some kinds will get ghai, etc. Okay. And sometimes they also need a catalyst. So if in chemical reactions, we have two reactants. Right? So there are two particles which actually take part, but for some reactions, we need the presence of another substance, which is called a catalyst. It may not take part in the reaction, but without it, the reaction will not happen. Similarly here, there are some cases, say kumbhakaraha. So the kr is the dhatu, an is the pratyaya. Those are the actual reactants. But if you just have kr, unaccompanied single kr, we will not get anna. Tatra karmani upapade. It needs the assistance of a catalyst in the form of a karma pada. That is what we call upapada. Upapada is a independent word which should be present for the addition of some Kṛt Pratyayas. Nirupapadaha Kṛt Pratyayaha bhavanti, sopapadaha Kṛt Pratyayaha api bhavanti. Ataha yada Kridanta shabdasya adhyayanam kriyate. I am sure you have seen many such words in the Sankshepa Ramayana. Tatra upapadasya satve eva tatra pratyayasya yojanam bhavati. So you have seen always, even in the Vivarana, wherever it is indicated, so dhatu pratyaya, something before it, if it is there, it means that it is required as an upapada. Ataha kaha pratyayaha tatra ka prakritihi iti jnatavyam. The third is called prakriya, means the process. So you have a dhatu, you have say pratyaya, you have say bhu, and you have tavya. It does not become bhutavya. The form is bhavitavya. So what is the modification either in the pratyaya part or the prakriti part. So when they join, just as I said, like a chemical reaction, they will not remain in their original form. Sometimes they might, but there is a reaction which converts or modifies either the pratyaya or the prakriti or both. So that process is called prakriya. So prakriya jnatavya bhavati. So how do we get the actual form? It's a very systematic process which is defined by Panini. Then arthaha. Kaha arthaha tena pratyayena uchyate. Okay. So what is or are? There are some pratyayas which can convey multiple meanings, but in a given context, okay, there will be a specific meaning. So tena Kṛt Pratyayena kaha arthaha bodhyate iti avagantavyam bhavati. Tataha upadhayaha, or the attributes. That is, once you get the Kridanta, is it indeclinable or is it declinable? If you add, say, ktva pratyaya to kritva, it becomes an indeclinable. If you add ach pratyaya, karaha, it becomes a pure pullinga word. If you add tavya pratyaya, kartavyaha, kartavya, kartavyam, it gets forms in all three lingas. So each kridanta that we generate based on the pratyaya will have different attributes. The main attribute is the gender. We need to understand which gender is the generated word. Is it declinable or not? If it is declinable, which genders can we use it in? Some of them are specific to some lingas, whereas some are visheshya nikhnas. That is, the gender varies depending on the visheshya. So it depends on which pratyaya. There are some pratyayas which always generate only pullinga forms, like ghai, ach, up, etc. There are some which generate only strilinga forms, like tin or yuch, etc. Some which generate only napumsakalingas, like lyut. Whereas some tavya, kta, ktavatu, they have in all three lingas. So that's very important. You should also know what is the anta. To know the form, to be able to use the kridanta. Say if it is shatru, it becomes a takaranta shabda. Right? Whereas if it is nini pratyaya, it becomes a nakaranta shabda. So that is required for us to be able to use the word. So once we know all this, vakye prayogaha. Katham tasya kridanta shabdasya prayogaha kriyate. For prayoga, does it govern a specific vibhakti? Right? So, say phalam bhuktavan, but phalasya bhojanam, eating of a fruit. If I use bhuktavan, I use phalam in dvitiya, whereas bhojanam, I use phalasya shashti vibhakti. So, how do we use? What are the vibhaktis? Unless we know it. So, final destination is vakya prayoga. Kintu ete sarve amshaha jnayante chedeva asmabhihi vakye tasya padasya samyak prayogaha kartum shakyate. Right? So, just for example, I will show for a couple of words. Atraiva asmabhihi kimuktam कृत प्रत्ययानाम अध्ययने ज्ञातव्याः अंशाः. अध्ययने इति कृदन्त शब्दः, ज्ञातव्याः इत्यपि कृदन्त शब्दः. So अध्ययने first level, that is padajnanam yada pashyamah, akarantaha napumsakalingaha adhyayana shabdah saptami ekavachanantam subanta shabdah. Now, adhyayana, when you take the pratipadika and drill it down, it is a kridanta. Tarhi kaha pratyayah iti chet lyut iti pratyayah. So the pratyaya original form is lyut, but in the words it always takes the form of ana, bhojanam, gamanam, karanam, pachanam. So Lyut is the actual pratyaya which takes the form of ana. That is the first thing. Prakritihi ka. What is the root to which lyut is added? It is a generic pratyaya which can be added to all dhatus. Sarvebhyah dhatubhyah lyut pratyayasya yojanam kartum shakyate. Atra adhyayanam ityatra adhi iti upasargah ing adhyayane iti dhatu. So the dhatu here is I. How do we get adhyayana from adhi, I and lyut? So there is a long process actually. So it is given here, you don't need to know. But I just want to show there are several steps in which the conversion happens. You have adhi, I, lyut. So on stepwise modification, you get adhyayana. Okay. Then what is the meaning of this? Atra lyut pratyayah prayena trayah arthaah bhavanti. So lyut, commonly we find three meanings. One is bhave. Bhave means action. So what is adhyayana? The act of studying or the process of studying is called adhyayana. So in this context, it is bhave. In some cases, it can be karanam. For example, when I say lochanam. Okay. So lochana means the eye that by which we see. Right? It is a karane lyut. Asanam, a seat that in which we sit. Right. So that is adhikarane lyut. So lyut pratyayah bhinneshu artheshu bhavati. Here adhyayanam means the act of studying. इदानीं कीदृशः शब्दः यदा भावे भवति सर्वदापि नपुंसकलिङ्गशब्दः भवति. ल्युट् प्रत्ययान्तशब्दः भोजनं, गमनं, करणं, लेखनं, कथनं, गानं, नर्तनं. Everywhere ल्युट् is नपुंसकलिङ्ग. अकारान्त नपुंसकलिङ्गशब्दः फलशब्दवद् रूपाणि भवन्ति. So once we know this, we are ready to use it. Katham vakye prayogah bhavati. So when you use adhyayanam, the karta or karma, because it is an action, you will have a person who is studying and we will have an object of study. Okay? So both of them in association with lyut pratyayanta will be in shashti vibhakti. Chhatranam adhyayanam samyak prachalati. Means the study by the students. That is, the students are the karta. Whereas vyakaranasya adhyayanam samyak prachalati. Vyakarana is the object of study. So kartuhu karmanaha ubhayohu षष्ठी vibhaktihi bhavati. Iti yada janimaha vayam vakye asya padasya samyak prayogam kartum shaknumah. So these are the 6 aspects that we need. So there is one more. It's very similar. Say tavya. Jnatavyaha ityatra tavya pratyayah asti. So added to jna dhatu. Here the process is very simple. So you can see the contrast. In adhyayanam, there were multiple steps. Whereas here, there is nothing. Jna and tavya, you directly get jnatavya. So it depends on both prakriti and pratyaya. So the meaning is passive. That which should be known, can be known, deserves to be known. So there are multiple meanings for the tavya pratyaya. So jnatavya means should be known. If you are studying Kṛt Pratyaya, it should be known, deserves to be known, can be known. So depending on the context, we can use it in any meaning. So in this particular context, it means should be known. Kasyachit Kṛt Pratyayasya samyak jnanartham ete amshaha jnatavyaha bhavanti. Now, unlike lyut, which is compulsory napumsakalinga, this tavya can be used in all 3 genders. Okay? So in pullinga, it is akaranta. In strilinga, it is akaranta. In napumsakalinga, it is again akaranta. अत्र ज्ञातव्याः अंशाः इत्यस्ति, अतः पुल्लिङ्गे बहुवचने प्रयोगः कृतः। वाक्यप्रयोगे कर्तृपदं तृतीया अथवा षष्ठी विभक्तौ भवति। सो केन ज्ञातव्यं? छात्रैः ज्ञातव्याः, छात्राणां ज्ञातव्याः, उभयथापि शुद्धम्। And it agrees with the karma pada. So the linga, vachana, vibhakti of the karma pada will be also replicated for the tavya pratyayanta shabda. So evam vayam kridanta shabdanam adhyayanam kurmah chet samyak sarvesham jnanam praptum shaknumah. Now all this we cannot do it in a single level. So this is just the destination. Right? How do we know? So if we are at the destination, given any Kridanta, we should be able to know all these aspects. So how do we get there? इति यदा चिन्तयामः तत्र सोपानक्रमेण एव अस्माभिः गन्तव्यं भवति। तत्र प्रथमं सोपानं भवति learning the basics. This is what we always do. There are certain common Kṛt Pratyayas which are very frequently used in the language, which can be added to all the dhātus. So ktva, lyap, tumun, ktak, tavatu, tavya, aniyar, shatru, shanach. These are the basic Kridantas that anybody learns at the first step of the language. यदा वयं संस्कृतभाषायाः अध्ययनं कुर्मः एतेषां प्रत्ययानां क्रमशः कस्मिन् अर्थे प्रयुज्यते, कथं प्रयोगः. So at the basic level we learn the common pratyayas and their usage. So we cannot go into all those 6 levels there. So there basic, what is the pratyaya, what is the dhatu, what does it mean? Evam jnatva vayam agre gacchama. Then once we are fairly comfortable, Dvitiya Sopane, a text-based Granthasya Adhyayanam. We take up a particular text and we try to analyze the Kridantas in those texts. That is exactly what we have done in the Sankshepa Ramayana course. You take a shloka, you check, okay, where are all the Kridantas? What happens at this level? Reinforcement of the common ones. Purvam yadyad adhitam tasya jnanam dridham bhavati. Right? So when we see them in application, we understand better how they are used, how the linga changes, how the vachana changes, etc. Also, we get exposure to some rarer pratyayas. Purvam yat naiva shrutam asit. Arambhe eva tapasvadhyaya niratam. Swadhyayah ityatra ghai pratyayah. Tapasvi vagvidambaram. Vagvit iti quick pratyayah. All these are totally new, but it is required. So in that context, always in grammar, learning a new thing is better if we have a context. So in context, we know what it means. So once you do 100 shlokas of Sankshepa Ramayana, I am sure there are like the quip would have come at least some 10 to 15 times. Nini would have come some 20 times. Ghai, ach, all these are frequently repeating. So we are building our database of Kridantas. So in the next step, we can take pratyaya based study. That is, take one pratyaya, study it in detail. Kutra kutra bhavati, kebhyaha dhatubhyaha ayam pratyayah bhavati, tatra arthaha kaha. Especially in such study, it is good to have meaning. Right? Meaning based, there is a set of pratyayas. Say ghai, ach, up. All these are in bhavarthaka. So then you can split to which dhatus do we add ghai, where do we add ach, where do we add up. Okay. So we can practice deriving the forms and usage. So what happens in ghai? Always there is vṛtti on the dhatu. What happens in ach? There is guna and so on. So it's slightly further level. Pratyayam ashritya tatra prayah tatra sarve amshaah asmabhihi yat drishtam prakriyam vihaya. Even if we don't go in detail into the process, the other five aspects, the prakriti, pratyaya, the artha, the upadhi and vakya prayoga, we can study together. So that is based on the pratyaya. Then when we go further, sutra based. Tatra paniniya sutra kramena yada vayam pashyamaha tada sarvesham api amshanam jnanam bhavati. So studying through the Paninian system is the only way to learn all Kṛt Pratyayas and to understand all the aspects related to all Pratyayas. That is, when we want to get into that depth, we can understand in detail the variety, the meaning, the process, everything becomes clear. Because till then, there will be questions. So, what is this? Can I add it to some other dhatu? Why is one dhatu giving this form, the other dhatu gives a different kind of a form? All these questions will remain. So you can find answers to all those only when we reach the sutra level. Even beyond that, there is one more. Once we study the pratyayas themselves to a sutra, so a dhatu based study. Say you take one dhatu, kr dhatu. What are all the krit pratyayas we can add? Okay. So especially for some common dhatus, yatha bhu dhatuhu, kr dhatuhu ityadi, tatra bahuvidhaha pratyayaha, vishishta pratyayaha bhavanti, samanya pratyayaha api bhavanti, vishishta pratyayaha api bhavanti. So once we are able to reach there, it is like a consolidation. We studied the various pratyayas, but once you look at it from the perspective of dhatus, the entire range of words that can be generated by the dhatu, we can understand. Okay. So, evam sopana kramena vayam. So, don't get uh, worried or anxious. So, in anything, so Saṃskṛtasya, tad vaishishtyam, anything you take, you can go on digging deeper, deeper, deeper. Initially, we feel like generally Saṃskṛtasya adhyayanasya arambham kurmaha. We have very wide objective. We think, okay, we will study everything from Vyakarana to Nyaya to Shankara Bhashya to everything. Once we start realizing the depth of each, we'll sometimes think, okay, enough of Vyakarana. We will stick to one Shastra and try to go deeper. Then even there, sometimes you feel, okay, even in Vyakarana, okay, let me take just Kridanta. You have so much of depth. It is always a choice. It does not mean everybody has to go to all the levels. It's purely a choice, like a specialization. Even in medicine, so we had general physicians, and today we have somebody who specializes in maybe, I mean, there are jokes, somebody who takes care of only the right ear or the left ear. Means, I mean, extreme specialization and generalization, both are there in all streams of knowledge. And asmakam bharatiya jnana paramparayam tu sarvatrapi mahad gambhiryam, immense depth. I mean, it's always amazing. I keep thinking we get overwhelmed just by knowing how much of depth is there in one very small aspect. If you look at the whole Vyakarana, Kridanta is a small aspect, one chunk. But even there is so much. So, how did Panini actually create that text where he covered to this depth in each and every topic? So, for everything, he has taken it to the final level. That is the beauty. So, if we can at least appreciate that beauty, it is a good thing. For our study, see, 2 or 3 levels, if we do even 3 levels, you will get a very good knowledge of Kridantas. Tena yadi anya shastranam adhyayanam kriyate athava granthasya kasyachit adhyayanam kartum ishyate. If you want to study any text independently, it is enough if you do 3 levels. Okay, that you will be more than well versed for that. So further ones are all for the Vyakarana crazy people who want to go more, because there is Vyakarana is very addictive actually. Once you learn how the processes are built, how things come together, it's fun. And it's very amazing to know the systems which have been built into these. So if you are interested, there is so much to know. If you feel it's enough, it depends on our objective. Not everybody learns to take apart a car or an engine of a car and find out what is wrong. For me as a person, all I want is to drive the car without crashing. So all further details are for those who want to know. So with that, uh, if we approach, it will be nice and it will be an enjoyable journey, not a stressful one. So now just to suggest some resources for these Kridantas. Kridantanam adhyayanam yadi vayam sopanakramena kartum. Katham kartum shaknumaha. I will skip the basic level because we are all beyond that, since we have already come to the textual level. I assume you already have a basic knowledge. Otherwise, tatra samanyataha yatra yatra bhashayaha adhyayanam kriyate. Any exam you take will always cover basic Kridantas. There is no doubt of it. Tataha agre granthanam adhyayanartham. So we have courses like this Sankshepa Ramayanam. We have other courses on Vyoma, like Raghuvamsha, other stuff. Also, you should learn to look up these Kridantas in the kosha or the dhatu patha. So any new Kridanta you find, for example, in the ashtadhyayi.com, so you have a, let me just, okay. So there is a search facility for the kosha. Right? For example, you have Dharmagya, Satya Sandhascha. So I don't know what is Dharmagya. I just put it here. So there are koshas which clearly give Dharmam Janati. So what is the dhatu? You have Gya and Ka. So here also you can see, here it's even more clearer. Nishpatti. So for beginners, I think Leena Bhagini should already have showed you the Shabdartha Kaustubha is a very good kosha, because it specifically calls out what is the dhatu, what is the pratyaya, and what is the vyutpatti. That is, what does it mean? Dharmam janati. Right? So you can search in the kosha, look for pratipadika. Now that you understand, you cannot look for dharmagnaha. So look for dharmagya as the pratipadika, because it is the pratipadika which is the kridanta. For even common ones, if you don't find it here, for example, let me say there are actually many of these will already be there. Say, let's assume bhavitavya is here, or but other than this, if you go back to the dhatu patha, here also you will find the word. Okay, so you can see bhavitavya. So tavya pratyayaha. Right? So it will show this. You can click on it. It will show the bhavitavya, bhavitavyaha, bhavitavya, bhavitavyam. So it will also show the forms in all three lingas. For common basic level Kridantas, you can look either in dhatu patha or in kosha. So most of the Kridantas, especially for level 2, you can make a practice. So any text you are looking, say Gita, Ramayana. So you can try to look up newer words and try to find out what they are. Okay. So next, as I said, a pratyaya based study. So this also, I think Bhagini has already shared. We did a course on Kridantas, which covered some 15 pratyayas in detail. So the attempt there was to cover all 6 aspects, not for all, of course, but for generic Kṛt Pratyayas. Then, if you want an in-depth one, level 4, the entire Kridanta Prakarana, all the 500 sutras with all the pratyayas are covered in detail. And even further, you can look it up. As I said, say, I just wanted to show an example to show how fascinating. If you look at just the bhu dhatu, so in the ashtadhyayi.com, there is this drop down which gives all the different forms. Okay, so kartari, etc. So here, if we go to Kridante, we get the Kridanta forms. So most of the words which are derived, say from bhudhatu, by adding Kṛt Pratyayas, you can get so many of the forms. You can see bhavat, bhavishyat, bhuyamana, bhavitum, bhava, bhuti, bhava, babhuvas, bhavuka, and so on. So it's a very interesting study. Take up some common dhatu, kr dhatu, bhu dhatu, and see what are all the forms which are here. There are also a lot of hyperlinks. So these days, for any pratyaya, there are, or any for any topic, there are lots of resources to make sure we go stepwise, okay, and try to master each of them. So mama samayah atitaha vastutah agre. I wanted to show some major types of say Kṛt Pratyayas, but we will see, maybe some other time we can take it. So adya atra idam satram samapayittum ichchami. So I thank my gurus who are at the base of everything that I say or do. So thanks to Leena Bhagini for inviting me here. So it was a very nice opportunity to consolidate some of this information. And of course, Vyoma and ashtadhyayi.com is a wonderful resource, particularly for Vyakarana. So prashnaha santi chet, we can take it. So for this, I think you can avoid questions specifically which Kridanta, which Pratyaya, etc. But if you have concept level, understanding level questions on Kridantas, we can take it. Next class, we will do Taddhitas. Since there is no introduction there, hopefully we will know more about different kinds of Taddhitas there. Tadapi prashnaha prashtum shakyante. So now if you have questions, you can either raise your hand or type it, whichever way. So ekah prashnah asti unadi pratyayaha katham bhavanti iti. So technically unadi is considered a subset of Kṛt Pratyayas. Unadi pratyayaha api dhatubhyah eva vidhiyante. So it is under the set of Kṛt. The only thing is Panini does not fully cover unadis. He just makes a mention of unadis. Then there is a separate set of rules which gives the unadis, but they are also covered under Kridantas because it is a kind of Kṛt Pratyaya. Indu Kumar.
Hari Om Bhagini. I think by mistake I have pressed the hand raise button. Shamyatam Bhagini, I have not realized it. Shamyatam.
Chinta nasti. P.K. Ramakrishna.
Namaste, Bhagini.
Ah.
In a sloka, there is a word Sita. This has been shown to be having tha pratyaya, Kridanta Pratyaya. How do I know whether Sita can have a, or this is based upon the context in which it has been used? There is a sloka, Ajitas Taddhyatha Vṛttam Sitayascha Visheshatah.
Everywhere in Sita. Sita is the name. Why was she named Sita? Again, in our thing, it is not that a name is just a random thing. So the story everybody knows. She was sort of drawn by the flow. So when King Janaka was plowing the land for his yajna, so she is called Bhumija, born from the earth. So she was literally dragged by the hala. That is why the derivation of it is like that.
That is
How
how
do
it has come
you?
to become Kṛt Pratyayas
Yes, that is the
based upon the
origin of the
context.
name. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Dhanyawad.
So Sita, Rama, Krishna, all these are derived from dhatus by adding Kṛt Pratyaya. So Rama is also Ramante Yoginaha Asmin. So he in whom people delight. So then it becomes a name that is there. So if somebody is called Rama, he is named, say, Ramachandran today, you should not ask the question, is it that all the yogins delight in him? That is not how it is. Say somebody called Sita to it today, what is her relation to how it was dragged? That is not how. So when we keep names today, it is based on somebody, but when for that person, it would have been a meaningful thing. So in origin, they are meaningful. Whether that meaning agrees with the when we use it as a name is a different thing. Say I am called Sowmya. Am I really Sowmya means by definition like cool like the moon. But am I really cool or I might be a short-tempered person? So once it becomes in use as a name, that is different. But the word itself is meaningful.
So, Bhagini, what I wanted to know was Sita, Kṛt Pratyaya has been given.
Mhm.
So, how does it fit into this name Sita? That's what I wanted to know. See, I was interested in the Pratyaya actually.
Correct. So Sita, so that which is flowed or dragged by that. That is how it is derived. So Krita means that which is done. So it is karmanikta, the object of that action.
Bandhani, it says.
Huh. So
She is
bandhana in
Bandhani.
this context is, yeah, to drag through that this. Sita
Oh,
is called the hala. Okay, that flow. It is through the action. It is derived.
it's based purely on the context.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dhanyawad.
Sushila.
Namaste, Bhagini. I wanted to know about this Unadi Pratyaya. How do we recognize that as a Unadi Pratyaya? It is not given in, the names are not given even in our any kosha or anything. It doesn't say that, or even in Ashtadhyayi when we search. I don't think it will.
You will get it, Unadi Pratyayas. Say,
Like to know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, there is one separate thing called Sunadi Patha, where you can go and search for it. Say, for example, if you look for Gauhu, which is, or Go, I don't know what exactly, or maybe Lakshmi. So, Lakshya Mutcha Lakshmihi, it will show. But even in a normal kosha, if you search for it, it will show it as, say, okay, so Gamer Doho, Una. So, all the koshas. It will mention it as an Unadi Pratyaya.
Okay, that is how one can recognize it in a dictionary.
Yeah. So for the basic level, or any level, the major reference or resource is the dictionary. That too, particularly the Shabdartha Kaustubha, Vachaspatya, and Shabdakalpadrum are three koshas. So if you go there, it would clearly show Gam and Doho means it's an Unadi Pratyaya.
Okay. Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
Dhanyawad.
Lali.
Hello, ma'am. My question is, thank you for this class. Actually, I never had any background in grammar actually, and my question is regarding this Ashtadhyayi. I'm just wondering, how is there any guidelines how to use them effectively for a beginner?
You mean the website?
Not the website I have actually. The
Actual Ashtadhyayi, if you mean it is, you will have to learn it systematically from a teacher. That is Ashtadhyayi or any Shastra. Self-study is not recommended, especially at the beginner level. So there are many texts, like say we have courses at Vyoma on, say, Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi. we have Ashtadhyayi Parichaya. So there are basic texts which will introduce Ashtadhyayi. Once you learn them, you will know how it is structured, how to approach, etc. So there is a pathway in which we approach it after some amount of basic grammar. So Ashtadhyayi, it is ideal to get into it after learning the basic grammar to a particular extent. So
Yeah,
there are
I
many
mean,
texts for starting with Ashtadhyayi. We will share, I'll ask Maini to share the links, and by the end of it, you can explore.
sure. So, in this online Ashtadhyayi, how we search for words and those things, is there any instructions
Yeah, he
how to
has a
use
video
it?
himself. So I think where there is a help somewhere. I'll load. He had. There is a detailed video where he gives the
How to use
instructions
it?
on how to use it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I will look into that when I find out.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah,
So I'll
thank
ask
you.
Bhagini to share the link. It should be here somewhere. So using that, you will know what are the various components and how to use it well.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bhagyalakshmi.
नमस्ते मैडम इदो गण्य इति उच्चारणं शुद्धं वा इति गञ् गञ् इति शुद्धं वा
Ganya.
गण्य
Nya is like cha cha ja janya. You have to press the tongue to the place just behind the teeth. The nasal sound you get there.
Okay, धन्यवाद.
Shyamala.
Namaste, Mahodaya. I had a doubt. This ach pratyaya, in one place it says Kridanta, and in the other place it says Unadi. So in Udara, it says ach pratyaya Kridanta. Ut yoge ru gatau plus ach you get Udara, bhave ach. Okay, and Sumka also is ach, but it says Unadi. Su yoge khanu avadarane ach. So I mean
Depends on every word. There are ach pratyaya is there in Kridanta, it is there in Unadi. There are some, say for example, an, it's totally, it will be there in Kridanta, it will be there in Taddhita. Ka is there in all three. So it depends on that particular word. Some could be.
how do we differentiate them?
You cannot differentiate just by looking at it. Once you study the pratyayas, as I said, if you study the Kṛt Pratyayas, you will know what are the contexts to which we get and so on. So once we get to that level, you can differentiate. Till then, I mean, just by looking at the word, there is no way to differentiate.
That's what. Yeah. Astu Mahodaya. Dhanyavada.
Murali.
Yeah, I think the Sita, the confusion is because like Shia Bandhane and then Sta Pratyay. So that is confusing somewhat. But there is in Vachapatyam, there is Sita and Sita Prusho Virdaha. This may make some sense, especially that Prusho is.
I didn't understand, sorry.
Like when we say Sita word, when we say like Shia Bandhane plus Ista Pratyay, so that seems like not very logical. I mean, that is a confusion, I think. But there is in Vachapatyam, there is something called, I'm reading from the ashadhyay.com, Sita Strilinga, Sita Prusho Dirdhaha. I think this makes some sense. Like
that is the process, basically adding C to Kta, there is a dirgha. I said everywhere there are some cases in which there may be a modification, some cases where it is not.
I think then will you not suggest that you go through different, at least it says with a lot of confusion, you go through 2-3 kosha, like Amara kosha, then Vachaspatyan, there is some good explanation in one or the
It
other.
may be sometimes it will also be confusing because there may be different pratyayas given. There are possibility of some pratyayas being derived or some words being derived by adding different pratyayas. There could be multiple derivations for the same one. So it is
Sometimes,
for each individual what is the level to which they want to go to.
sorry for interjecting. Sometimes I didn't find the word, I searched everywhere, I could not find properly Shabari.
Yeah, see, very honestly, all Pratipadikas, it is impossible to make a list. Dhatus are limited. Whereas when you look at the number of words, it's basically infinite. So it's definitely all words will not be there in any kosha. We will have to break down and maybe find out the parts. Say if Vagvida is not there, you can find out Vak separately, Vida separately, and see how they are joined. Not all words will be there in any kosha because the vocabulary of Saṃskṛta is much huger. And it's impossible to make. I mean, you can create a new word. That is the freedom that the language gives.
Like, Shabari is very important name and word in Ramayanam. So, is it required that one has to go to Raghuvansham or maybe something like that? I think Raghuvansham is also mentioned.
Many Vyakhyanas of the Ramayana mention that Raghuvamsha. So Kosha is one easy to access one, but the commentaries, many commentaries give the Vyutpatti of many words. So,
I think sometimes you may need to go to something called as Niruktam.
Niruktam is for Vedic words. If you are studying the Vedas, yes. For normal words, we have the koshas and we have the vyakhyanas. Those are the basic sources.
So particularly if it's a Vedic word, then perhaps you need.
So Vaidika words, Nirukta is one of the Pramanika sources.
Thank you.
Sanskrit Academy. I don't know the name. That's what it says.
क्षम्यतां मम नाम जयरामः अस्ति एकः प्रश्नः अस्ति अद्यतनकक्षायां भवत्या ल्युट् प्रत्ययस्य एकम् उदाहरणं दत्तं तत्र अध्ययनम् इति तत्र अस्मिन् उदाहरणे अधि इति उपसर्गः तत्र उपपदम् अस्ति वा नो चेत् सर्वदा
नास्ति ल्युट् इति उपपदं नापेक्षते धातुभ्यः योज्यते The dhatu is a unique dhatu where nityam adhipurvah adhi iti upasargena sahaiva prayuchyate.
एवं वा तर्हि अधि इति पदम् उपसर्गः
अत्र उपपदं न
अस्ति अस्तु 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 अवगतम् धन्यवादः
Okay, I think we can stop here. Neena Bhagini. Sorry, it extended quite a bit.
अस्तु भगिनि बहु धन्यवादाः भवत्याः
अस्तु बुधवासरे
आं प्रार्थनां करोमि तत्पश्चात् समापयामि सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति
शान्ति
धन्यवादाः भगिनि बुधवासरे मिलामः